Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at some incredibly spicy battles in the Great League featuring XL level 50 Deerling. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now, Deerling is a normal and grass type Pokemon with the moveset of Tackle, Seed Bomb, and Wild Charge, and this trainer pairs it up with a Shadow Skuntank and a Diggersby. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out XL Deerling in action in the Great League. Hopping to the first match, picking up a terrible lead, Deerling into Shadow Nidoqueen, immediate save switch into Shadow Skuntank, and the opponent responds with Umbreon. Since the opponent did wait to bring in the Umbreon, Skuntank with the shield advantage can possibly take switch advantage. Able to land the flamethrower, Umbreon is going to farm up and then fire off a move. Skuntank tanks whatever they throw. They go for a foul play, which means that they very well could be running Psychic instead of Last Resort, and that makes it an even better matchup for Skuntank. Skuntank tanks the foul play and is going to fire off the Crunch. Crunch is resisted. The opponent knows this, lets it through, but gets the defense drop and able to farm down. In the back, the opponent has Medicham, but this is actually a Psycho Cut Medicham. Opponent not running the standard counter, and that is really good news because all that's left is normal types. In comes Deerling. Deerling is going to be tanking this first charge move. Medicham fires off the Ice Punch. That does a ton of damage. Medicham already at another Ice Punch thanks to the quick energy generation of Psycho Cut. A switch into Diggersby, and it's a simultaneous switch. Diggersby into Shadow Nidoqueen. Diggersby tanks whatever they throw here. They go for the Poison Fang. Diggersby farms up and is going to be going straight for the Earthquake. No baiting here. Earthquake able to land, and now it's all up to the Medicham for the opponent. Diggersby is going to be able to tank the Ice Punch here, despite the fact that Diggersby is debuffed. That Ice Punch does quite a lot of damage, building up to the Earthquake, baiting with the Fire Punch. Fire Punch does get the shield. Diggersby is going to throw another Fire Punch. This is going to burn the switch clock, and then it's all up to Deerling. In comes Deerling. Is Deerling going to be able to reach a charge move before Medicham gets to the double Ice Punches? Ice Punch number one gets the shield. Deerling able to get to the Wild Charge. Wild Charge will be taking out the Medicham, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, picking up a terrible lead, Deerling into Registeel, immediate save switch into Shadow Skuntank. Registeel is going to be able to outpace and reach a charge move before Skuntank does make it to the Flamethrower. Focus Blast will grab a shield from the Skuntank. Skuntank overfarms, goes for the Flamethrower, but the Flamethrower is caught onto a Golbat. It is a Shadow Golbat, so that Flamethrower does do a ton of damage. Golbat goes for the Poison Fang. This is resisted, so Skuntank should be able to tank this and then commit to the farm down and leave with a ton of energy to threaten the Registeel if that's what the opponent decides to bring back in. Opponent is waiting their timer, and they choose to bring in a Sableye, so they do not bring in the Registeel. Skuntank firing off the Crunch, gets a shield from the Sableye. Skuntank able to get to another Crunch, applying a ton of pressure onto the Sableye. Sableye is going to let that go. In comes Deerling. These tackles are double resisted, but Deerling is double resisting the Shadow Claws as well. Sableye goes for the foul play. That does a ton of damage. Opponent makes a catch of the Seed Bomb onto Registeel. How did they know Deerling counts? In comes Diggersby, and now it's Diggersby's time to take down the Registeel. One Focus Blast does not KO an XL Diggersby. Diggersby able to tank the charge move, and they're going straight for the Earthquake here. Earthquake able to land. Back in comes the Sableye. Sableye in a very tough spot. They're going to be firing off a charge move here. Diggersby can choose to let this through and trust in the Deerling. Deerling going for the tackle farm down. Opponent is going to be able to reach one foul play, but they will not reach the back-to-back. Deerling tackles down the Sableye, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, picking up another disastrous lead, Deerling into Talonflame, save switch into Shadow Skuntank, and the opponent is going to respond with a Shadow Swampert. Definitely good to bait out the water type here. Skuntank, Crunch, able to land, and suddenly this is looking like Skuntank can take switch advantage. Skuntank commits the shield and is able to farm down the Swampert. That is big. Opponent is going to bring back in the Talonflame. Skuntank able to reach the Crunch before Talon is able to reach a move. Crunch gets the shield. Talonflame is going to fire off a charge move, and at this point, you definitely let the Skuntank go. And now, in comes Diggersby. Diggersby is extremely tanky, going for the Fire Punch on the CMP tied to the potential Brave Bird. I like this play. Brave Bird deals a ton of damage, but now the Talonflame is trapped in here. Talonflame not going to be able to switch, and they're forced to commit a shield. In comes Deerling. Those tackles deal a ton of damage, and now, in the back, there is Galarian Stunfisk. Thankfully, the Earthquake is resisted here, so for neutral damage, the Stunfisk is forced to go for the much less powerful Rock Slides. They do have quite a lot of energy here. Stunfisk goes for the Earthquake anyway, probably unfamiliar with Deerling's typing, as most people are. Deerling is going to be firing off another Seed Bomb. Seed Bomb is going to get that Stunfisk low. Stunfisk is going to be forced to fire off some energy, and at this point, I think you just trust in the Diggersby to win this match. In comes Diggersby. If you can just Mud Shot down and then Fire Punch the Talonflame, you're in a pretty good spot here. Rock Slide gets the shield. In comes the Talon, and Talon is able to get to a move. Diggersby tried to overfarm. Talonflame gets to the move, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Deerling into Alolan Ninetales. Deerling is going to be staying in this lead. The charms are adding up quite a bit, but so will this Wild Charge damage. Deerling going for the Wild Charge. Wild Charge gets shielded and an immediate save switch into Skuntank. This Weather Ball would do quite a bit of damage, so Shadow Skuntank is going to commit the shield. Ninetales staying in this matchup, hoping for another Weather Ball, but they do not get there. Opponent is going to send in a Medicham, and hopefully Skuntank can reach a second move here. Crunch gets the shield. Medicham going for the farm down, but Skuntank says no. Able to reach a last second crunch, and that is going to do massive damage onto the Medicham. At this point, you can't afford to bring in Deerling. Deerling is too low, so now it's up to Diggersby. Diggersby is going to be able to tank this damage from Medicham. Medicham goes for the power-up punch. Diggersby continues to farm up. Medicham continuing to fire off these power-up punches, boosting their counter damage more and more and more. They're going to be firing off this Fire Punch. Fire Punch will get that Medicham very low, bringing in the Deerling. Deerling able to tackle down. In the back, it's a Venusaur, and if Diggersby can reach the double Fire Punch, the double Fire Punches plus the Mudshot damage should be enough to KO. Fire Punch is going to get the Venusaur low, continuing to farm up. Venusaur is going to fire off a Frenzy Plant. Diggersby should be in a good spot here. This does appear to be Fire Punch range. Diggersby going for the Fire Punch. Will it knock out? Yes, it will. And that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Deerling into Shadow Abomasnow. Absolutely awful lead. Save switch into Shadow Skuntank, and the opponent responds with a Cofagrigus. This is by no means a good response to Skuntank, as Skuntank is able to land the crunch and deal absolutely massive damage. At this point, the opponent appears pretty weak to Skuntank, so I do like the decision to commit the shield, because you kind of need the Skuntank to help take out the Abomasnow. Opponent is going to bring in Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen may have been a safer response to the Skuntank save switch, because Nidoqueen can take a crunch, whereas Cofagrigus basically cannot. Nidoqueen is going to be firing off a move. Poison Fang would not KO here. Earth Power would be fatal. They go for the Poison Fang. Skuntank able to withstand the poison jabs and reach a crunch. Crunch gets the shield, an aggressive switch into Deerling. Deerling is going to basically just be used as a damage sponge in this match, because both Nidoqueen and Shadow Abomasnow have very good matchups against it. In comes the Skuntank and forces the opponent to throw. Very nicely done, and now it's all up to Diggersby. Can Diggersby get to the double Fire Punches versus the Abomasnow? Any one charge move should not KO here. Diggersby is going to let it go. They go for the Weather Ball. That does a ton of damage, but Diggersby is able to survive. Diggersby going for the Fire Punch. Opponent lets it through, and that is a good game. Decent lead in the next match, Deerling into Galarian Stunfisk. Immediate save switch into Shadow Skuntank, and honestly, I think it would have been safer to just play out the lead with Deerling. Deerling, at the very least, is resisting the Earthquake while only taking neutral from Rock Slide, whereas the Skuntank does have to be mindful of a potential Earthquake, which would definitely one-shot. Crunch gets the shield. Stunfisk continues to farm. Skuntank able to reach another crunch. This is not going to KO. It's short of the flamethrower. Opponent knows that, and they're going to let that go. And at this point, unfortunately, Skuntank is going to be taken out as the Rock Slide is enough to KO. In comes Diggersby. Diggersby is going to be able to farm up quite a bit of energy here. Stunfisk fires off the Earthquake. Earthquake is definitely going to hurt. Diggersby is going to farm up and then fire off the Fire Punch. Fire Punch should be enough to take out the Stunfisk. We'll have to see what they have in the bag. And they have a Venusaur farming up some energy and going to be firing off this Fire Punch. Fire Punch able to land. Diggersby continuing to farm, goes for the Fire Punch, but loses CMP to the Venusaur. That is unfortunate, as Diggersby is forced to burn the final shield. At this point, you have to hope that Deerling has a good matchup versus whatever they have in back. Aggressive switch into Deerling, and the opponent switches in Sableye. Oh my goodness, maybe there's actually a chance here. Can Deerling withstand a return? They go for the return. Deerling barely able to hang on and to reach the Wild Charge. Wild Charge is going to do some solid chip damage onto the Sableye. In comes Diggersby. Diggersby going for the Fire Punch, needing this to KO, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Fire Punch gets the Sableye low, but Sableye able to hang on. This foul play is going to be taking care of the Diggersby, and that is a good game. The bad leads continue in the next match, Deerling into Shadow Nidoqueen. At this point, I'm trying to think what's a lead that Deerling could actually win. Deerling farms up some energy and brings in the Shadow Skuntank. Opponent makes a definite misplay, going for the Poison Fang when you should, at the very least, build up to the Earth Power. Skuntank continues to farm and is going to be firing off the Crunch. This Crunch will do big damage if it lands, which it does, taking down the Shadow Nidoqueen. In comes Azumarill, and we may finally see a Pokemon where Deerling has a good matchup. Crunch is going to be fired off onto the Azumarill. Azu commits the shield and farms down. Azu does leave with a pretty massive energy lead, and that is scary for the Deerling because Ice Beam is going to hit for super effective damage. Deerling continues to farm. It's a Trevenant in the back, and Trevenant just gets absolutely crushed by Diggersby. XL Diggersby tanks 2 Seed Bombs, whereas 2 Fire Punches plus the Mud Shots are enough to KO Trevenant. Trevenant is going to fire off the second Seed Bomb, but XL Diggersby just does not care, tanking that like it's nothing, and going to start returning fire with these Fire Punches. First one, able to land, firing off the second Fire Punch now as well, really putting the opponent into a tough spot. They're going to let that go, trusting in the Azumarill. Azumarill going for the farm down. Unfortunately, Diggersby not able to reach the Earthquake. Opponent lost track of counts, commits a shield, and now they're getting wild charged by a Deerling. Deerling taking care of the Azumarill, and that is a good game. Hopping into the final match, leading Deerling into Altaria. With a Diggersby in the back, you can't really switch out of this lead, so Deerling is going to have to stay in and try and play it out. Deerling going straight for the Wild Charge. Wild Charge, able to land, and an immediate switch into Skuntank. Altaria is going to fire off a move. Skuntank commits the shield, and it's a Moonblast, so that proves to be a big shield. Opponent is going to bring in their Nidoqueen, but this is not a Shadow, meaning that this Nidoqueen is going to be able to tank the Crunch and comfortably reach the Earth Power. Skuntank down on shields. At this point, you kind of just have to let this go, and then instead go for a massive farm down with Diggersby. Diggersby, unfortunately, is going to have to take an Earth Power here, but on the bright side, XL Diggersby is very tanky, so it's going to be able to absorb that damage and farm down. Diggersby does leave with quite a lot of energy, and it's going to need it because Altaria is very tough for Diggersby to take out. Fire Punch, able to land, in comes Deerling. Deerling going for the farm down, and it gets it. The final Pokemon is revealed to be Empoleon. Deerling going for the Seed Bomb, desperately needing a shield. Opponent does commit the shield. Deerling, unfortunately, does not get to another move. Back in comes Diggersby, full sending the Earthquake, hoping it can land. It does, and that is a good game. All in all, some pretty crazy battles featuring XL Deerling. Now, XL Deerling, definitely not a Pokemon I would recommend investing in, as it doesn't make it all the way up to 1500, and as we've seen, it does get absolutely destroyed by a lot of the meta, but honestly, that makes the fact that this trainer was able to get some wins with it even more impressive in my book, because man, Deerling looks to be a very difficult Pokemon to run. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.